Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Podcast. It is your host, David McCaig Jr., bringing you yet another special edition upload powered by 91 Network 91N, formerly known as TGEM. This edition is sponsored by Flawless Roofing Sure Seal Incorporated. Now, wherever you're listening, make sure you're subscribed, following, liking the video, the audio versions of our content on the 91N YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple. Look, just give us a search, and the Game Sports Show podcast is there. Now, firstly, I got to introduce the co-host joining yours truly, David McCaig Jr., the host of the edition. I'm going to get to who's joining yours truly for this upload, the one and only Alex Parr. Now, where do you know Alex? Very simple. He's been on the Game Sports Show for quite some time. He's one of the co-hosts on the Top Shelf editions. He's the co-host on these special editions. He's really wicked at EASHL, and this is pretty fitting for this episode. But let's bring him in here. Alex, how's it going, my friend?
Hey, it's going really well. This is one I've been telling you to chase down for a while. I've been labeled as the resident nerd on this show, so like you said, I feel like there's nobody better than myself. To my own horn, Dave, I'm ready to get into this one.
Just a note to everyone, we're going to talk about EA. I'm not going to give a comment to that, but I got to introduce the guest. You already know who the guest is, probably by the thumbnail or by the title, listening to the description, but I got to give my introduction. I've been doing these introductions for a long time, but I usually try not to make them too long where you can go get a popcorn and come back and I'm still talking. So let's get into it. Getting to our guest today, and you still currently hear his voice throughout your household. It could be your car, video game console, a headset. Heck, you're hearing him today on this podcast. Now, he's born in Ottawa. This guest is a Canadian broadcaster who's involved previously with the Abbotsford Canucks in the American Hockey League as play-by-play, and notably the play-by-play voice for the ever-popular EA Sports NHL game. The game's coming out soon, NHL 24. This guest has been a host on shows through Sportsnet, Sportsnet Central, Sportsnet Pacific, TSN, and he was the on-scene correspondent for the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver, and he's also an award-winning commentator, okay, for the Gemini for the best sports feature on a story that was done between Terry Fox and Jay Triano. Fantastic story. Yes, I did check that out. Now, hopefully he doesn't ask me questions about it, okay? I'll stop there because there's so much there's so much more to share and so much more to tell, but that's why we have our show, for you to hear the story from the guests themselves. Without further ado, James Cybulski. James, thanks for coming on the show. It's an honor, man.
Wow, Dave, thank you. Make me feel important there. It's like, who is this guy, man? Big ups, thank you.
Of course, man. We're very happy that you can come on. And, today it's great that we got connected. And truthfully, Parr has been bugging me to get a list of guys to come on the show, okay? And your name was on that list. The other next names are Kyle Dubas, and I believe Wayne Gretzky's on that list too, Parr. But there's a lot of reason why with Kyle Dubas is because we're from Sault Ste. Marie. He was the Leafs GM, obviously not anymore with an abrupt leave, but nonetheless, we're very happy that you can join us, James, because your voice truly does echo in our house. And the reason why I say that, okay, is before we get into any topics, and I wanted to save this topic for an actual discussion, so we'll talk about you in that, but I want to talk about members of how the Game Sports Show family, including myself and Alex, have LAN parties. Yes, at 31 years old, we have LAN parties for the NHL game. Okay, and we play it on routine. We play EASHL. There's a team called the Game Sports Show. I'd say we're pretty good, but then when you look at all the teams that do play and their records, there's people that are insane records on there. They've heard your voice through TVs, many individuals, including ourselves, and I'm sure you can guess why. So we are avid NHL, EASHL players, James. I'm sure you get that a lot when you're seen in public about, hey, I play that game and I hear your voice.
You know, it's funny. Thank you very much. I'm quite flattered by the comments, and I would say that, as a kid, when I was younger, when I was 18, 19, and the game was really starting to kind of find its sea legs, particularly NHL '94. I was a Sega Genesis console guy at the time, right? So I mean, I have gone through my different generations, but I had my Sega Genesis during those NHL '94 years, and I loved the game. I loved the franchise, and obviously there's a pop culture romance with the game from the movie Swingers 30 years ago. But that period of time, I played, And, I think for over the course of the lifetime of the last 30 plus years of the existence of the game, life happens. So you kind of come in and come out. So, I went to the PC mode, which late 90s when, Jim Houston was calling the game. And it was, I think it was Joe Sakic on the cover of NHL 98. And, and then I upgraded, or I don't know if you'd upgrade, but I left the PC and went to PlayStation, the first PlayStation.
PlayStation 1.
Yeah, PlayStation 1. It wasn't even PlayStation 1. It was just PlayStation, right? And then slowly you kind of come in and out. And, the NHL, the early 2000s, it was pretty consistent in playing those. NHL 03. And, I'm thinking back, I think it was Jerome McGinley around that sort of period of time. And, and then, NHL 2007, I think Ovi makes his first appearance. And so just, you come, you go, depending on where you're at in life. And, about 5 years ago, the opportunity presented itself that they were looking for a new broadcast team for the video game. And I was living out here in Vancouver. And I had a good friend of mine by the name of Davis Sanchez, who's an NFL and CFL analyst at TSN these days, who had previously played in both the NFL and CFL. And Davis and I were working together and hosting a podcast through the Canadian Football League. And he had a good friend who was involved with the game, and he would mention that they were looking for a new broadcast duo. And I thought, man, that sounds really freaking cool. And I would love to, to get a chance to do something like that. And lo and behold, I said, hey, look, do you think you could ask your buddy if I could at least audition, at least take a swing at the plate? Like, I'd just love to, take my cut. If I crash and burn, I crash and burn, but at least I tried.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, let me ask him. And, a few days later, I get an email from a member of the legal team with Electronic Arts, and they were based out of Los Angeles at the time. And they just said, hey, look, your name's come up as somebody we'd like to schedule an interview with and or an audition with if you're free. And so, I went in. And I'd gone in for the audition, and it was kind of a whirlwind where they kind of threw a bunch of real highlights on a black and white monitor, and they just call it as you see it, and so I just did and tried to have some fun with it, and I guess I walked out and was like, man, that's really cool, and I don't know what just happened, but I liked it, and and then a month goes by, and I didn't hear anything, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, and I'd almost forgotten about it, we had gone on a family vacation, and, it's summer starting to hit, and I get an email all of a sudden saying, hey, look, we've made a short list to the audition process, and you've made the short list. We should have a decision in the next week to 10 days. And I'm, wow, okay. All right, seat at the table, still alive. All right. And so that goes by, and then like crickets again for another, month. And so, I think the thought goes through my mind like, wow, well, you know what? Honestly, that's just really cool to get the opportunity. And you're basically patting yourself on the back for getting a participation ribbon, right? And you're like, oh, I'm just happy I tried, and to even be considered on the short list, that's pretty cool. And then I get an email again, and it's, hey, look, we'd like to schedule a chemistry test with you and another voice talent. And it's
chemistry
like,
test.
Oh wow, like, okay, this is serious. And so I go back to the studios a second time, and who do I run into in the parking lot? It's Ray Ferraro. And Ray and I had worked together at TSN, and we had been familiar with each other for a number of years. And so I was like, immediately seeing Ray, it was like, okay, I mean, if I'm doing this with Ray, like this has to be serious, because Ray, I know they love Ray, and they'd be silly not to have him involved in the game. And so I was like, man, obviously these guys love you. And he just said to me, look, he goes, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because it sounds like you made a heck of an impression the first time. So, and my style is, kind of, Alex, I guess you can probably speak to this, because it sounds like you're the rock star gamer in the house. But, I bring I like to bring a lot of energy. I like to try to treat the approach like a Game 7. Yeah. The biggest game going, because, if you're playing that game, nothing else matters for you in that world, right? Like, you're not paying attention to the kids. You're not cooking dinner. You're playing a freaking video game, right? You're playing some Chell. And so, I go in, I do a quick audition with Ray. It seems to go well. They're like, awesome. We'll be in touch. And then crickets again for another month. And it's like, okay, but all right. And then I get another email, we'd like for one more audition if you could come in. And it's like, oh my God, okay, this has got to be like, now it's like, okay, I want this now. Like now I am mentally invested. I am emotionally invested. I am physically invested. Now I'm like, I got knots in my stomach. And I go in and one of the producers kind of had a conversation with me just saying, look, you know, we've had a lot of Hall of Fame broadcasters that have been the voice of this game, whether it was Jim Houston, whether it was Doc Emmerich, whether it was Gary Thorne, like all three Hall of Fame legendary broadcasters. And it's kind of like, you know, respectfully, you're not a conventional broadcaster. You know, in my opinion, it's like, who in the blue hell is James Cybulski, right? I mean, I think I've created some familiarity in Canada, you know, over the course of my time at Sportsnet and TSN and the Score over the years. But, you know, south of the border, you know, that really kind of means nothing, or anywhere else around the world, right? So, yeah. So anyway, they're like, look, you know, there could be some, you know, there could be some social media backlash, and there could be some, this might be some people going, what the hell? Like, who is this guy? And I was like, you know, I got big boy pants, and you know, I'm a big kid. I can take it. And so they said, all right, well, we'll let you know in a week. And honestly, it was probably the longest friggin' week of my life. Like, true to their word, like almost to the minute, I had to wait for that. And I, like, every email, every text over the next 7 days, like, is this it? Is this it? Like, and then finally, I got the call from Sean Ram Jagsing, one of the guys, one of the bosses, Rammer, exactly. And Rammer called, and he said, hey, listen, you know, we'd love for you to be the kind of the soundtrack for the game. And you know, I've been very fortunate to do a lot of very unique and cool things in my professional career, and traveling to places around the world that I never thought I would see. But to get that call to be part of a game that I grew up playing, that I just was so determined to want to treat with the utmost respect and have that fun. And I think that sort of passion is a big part of why I am doing this today, because it has certainly been one of the coolest experiences of my life.
Honestly, when you said Sega, I got chills a little bit, because I remember having the Sega Genesis console downstairs playing.
It was like, Cybulski, you're fucking old.
And I remember, like, Archer's Urbe being a Nep in San Jose at that time. And you fast forward to the PC, that was the evolution. Like, I remember the 2004 game, Marcus Naslund. Was that 05 or 04? I'm drawing a blank now.
Yeah, well, yeah, I want to say 04. Yeah, because I was in Vancouver, and Naslund, he was doing some stuff with EA, and he actually hooked me up with a whole bunch of EA games. Like, I got mad, and honestly, to save all that money, but I had Tiger Woods, I got Madden, I had NHL, I'm trying to remember, there was one other one I think as well, but it was like, oh my god, like, how much money is this? And I just get like all these, all these games. So yeah, Nazi was a poster boy, I think, at one time as well.
It was cool, but like, I remember getting my PS1. I forget what because PS1 I came out, I believe, when I was 10. I'm a 91, to be honest, James. So like, I feel like I've had every game since that Sega Genesis. Every game that I can get, I can have. And I love that game. And you bring up good nostalgia there from Jim Houston. Like, I can remember hearing, great save, Kippersoft, for some reason.
Oh, yeah. Love it.
He had his own thing. And then the Docs was good, too. Like, truthfully, but I remember when you got it, and I remember seeing that on social media. I'm not one really to tweet too much, but I was excited because I remember you from the Score. I remember you from Sportsnet. The Canadian people loved it because we knew that. It's the United States individuals that had to get a little bit warm first before jumping in to understanding what the effect was. And I truly think, and I know we were going to get into this a little bit later, but we're doing it now, right off the hop. Ray Ferraro, your tweet and your Instagram post to Ray Ferraro was absolutely hilarious. And I'm stealing Parr's thunder, so before I won't steal his thunder, I'll go to my thing first. I'll just say that having that game, and now that you're on it and you play it, that just must bring you those chills, right? That is so cool. It's like, holy fuck. I was playing this game. Now, I am the voice everybody hears in this game for hours and hours. Like, if you want to know the true amount of hours the Game Sports Show has played.
No.
It's over 250 hours for me.
Oh,
anyway.
Way more than that. For me, you're really underselling it.
No, for me, I looked at it before I logged on because I wanted to brag about 250. So I thought that was a lot. Why, are you more? Parrs, are you more?
Think about it. Like, that's like just this game.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this year.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm talking 2020. Yeah, sorry, that's just 2023. So probably 1,000 hours between since you've come on. And I've heard your voice. I've heard you say my name on my because when you create a pro, right? My last name's McCaig. Greg McCaig was in the game. Not really.
Yeah.
He's got a lot cooler way of spelling the last name though than I do. He has a K-E-G.
Keg party.
Yeah,
so that's like that's a frat boy spelling, right?
So cool. I don't know what my family was thinking. I still cheer my dad, but that's true. Parr, take it though with the I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now. The tweet.
Ray Ferraro.
Yes, yeah.
He's not with you this year anymore. He announced his departure from the game this year. And on the way out the door, you had tweeted, "We won't be hearing about your empty net goals anymore." I thought that was super funny. So talk about the new challenge now without Ray. I believe it's Cheryl Pounder now who's going to be joining you in the booth.
I didn't know that. I didn't see that. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's Cheryl Pounder. So what kind of new challenges is that going to bring to you?
Well, first let me say this about Ray. Ray is incredible. Right, and Ray is one of the best analysts in the game, and I think a lot of people, would have Ray atop the power rankings, and so, to work those dual sessions with Ray, those two-person sessions, it was so much fun. It just way more engaging to kind of play off, and Ray is so quick-witted. When you're voicing a play and when you're analyzing a play, you're really breaking down something that physically doesn't exist. Right, you've got the context of what has happened, but you're basically in that analyst role trying to break down something that, in your mind you've seen enough times happen in your life, but it really hasn't. So, Ray pulls that out of a hat where I can kind of play it straight to, all right, here's the shot, puts it wide of the net, and now Ray's got oh man, like. You got to hate those. You just missed just wide of the net. You got to make those ones count. Or and Ray has that ability to where and every once in a while, not that he was always cheeky, but every once in a while it's like put it on net. Gotta hit a barn door. And it was funny because we would hear from people on social, and Ray particularly, how some gamers I think really got frustrated with how Ray would kind of call them out and chirp them. Right?
Ray made me feel like shit so many times, and I was like, Ray, I'm losing by 12, man. Can we just wrap this up here?
Yeah, and that's and I think for part of it, they allow us a lot of runway to play along, like stay within the context, keep the integrity of the game, but I think that's part of Ray's charm, and so that sort of personality is imperative to show who Ray really is. And I think that really shone where, when you're getting your ass handed to you in a video game and you're down 6-1, it's like, okay, thanks, man. I don't need to be hearing this. But I think in almost every game, like he's got, it's, I used to play NBA Jam when I was a kid, you go on a cold streak and it's like, he can't buy a bucket, right? And it's like, he puts up a brick and you're like, shut up, I'm here, help me out here. And so with Ray, it was so much fun, his sense of humor and his wit. And I'll tell you what, it is, I think for anybody, it would be a tough act to follow. And we went through the audition process last year with Cheryl Pounder. And I was privy to some of those auditions, and I can tell you this: it was obvious right away that Cheryl was the one. It just Cheryl, and I think Cheryl has really, has made a name for herself rather recently in the broadcast world, but she's been doing it for a long time. I just don't think she had the spotlight or the platform that was given to her at TSN until the last couple of years, where it's like you cannot deny her. Like everywhere she goes, she's really good. Yeah. She does her homework. She's got 2 Olympic gold medals, and she dials in. And she's got a great sense of humor that she doesn't take herself too seriously. She's such a fun teammate to work with. Very different personalities, both her and Ray, but they're both really engaging, not afraid to kind of speak their mind, but also, too, that really, at the root of it, know their stuff and like to have fun. And I think when you have put knowledge and fun together, you're going to have a good time. And Cheryl, very much like Ray, quick on her feet, great improvisational ability, really smart and dialed in. And you know what? She sounds awesome. Like, she's got a great voice that I think is really... I cannot wait to hear how it sounds once the game drops on October 6th. And, typically we've had opportunities to get a little snapshot of just how the game sounds, the prototype, as they're building it along the way over the course of the year. we haven't had a chance to hear it so far. But I can say this, I nitpick the shit out of myself whenever I've watched myself or listened to myself in television or radio or digital over the years, whether I complain about, my tie is crooked, or, it looks like I've got 4 chins today, just the way my body language, or, I think we all have our own little quirks about ourselves. It's like anytime you look at a picture of yourself, you're just judging, right? Or at least I certainly nitpick the crap out of myself. And the first time I sat there and I played the game with myself being in it, being someone who, I guess there's our own insecurities, but there's that element of self-consciousness. I had a wave where I'm playing the game, and all of a sudden, I got to this game, it's overtime, and I'm like, holy crap, this sounds freaking awesome. Obviously we have an incredibly talented audio team and staff that kind of builds this game to add the audio and the context and the crowd and all the bells and whistles. But man, it was one of those things where it was like, man, I am so proud to be involved with this, because I sound, and look, there's probably a million people that are going to disagree with me on this one, but I was like, man, this sounds so cool. Yeah. And I am just, Cheryl, and look, how many women voices have there been in a video game of this sort of magnitude? I think it's going to pop. I really, and she is just the personality for it. I think people are really going to enjoy it. And, this is year 1. This is a lot of work on Cheryl to kind of, catch up for a lot of content. When you're a new voice, like, there's just so many basic elements that you need, but there's just a ton of work for her. At least for me, for the last few years, I've kind of built up, the hours of content, where this is Cheryl's first year. So it's a lot on her, but I am really excited for the gamer to hear what Cheryl can bring and what she has to say over the course of the season.
And that was even one of my questions. Like, I was playing the game at like 7 years old, and I was thinking, how much stuff do these guys have to say and record before they can even put out the first game? Like, how many hours are you in the booth for the first game? Like you said, you can add on a little bit more, new names, new players, new stats. But that first game, you got to be in there forever.
So, Alex, when you were 7, they actually put me inside your console, and I just, every time you turned it on, like, there was me just, hey!
Oh, well, I'm sorry if I had a bad game and I started hitting the thing then.
Oh, it's like, it's too early! Get back to bed, Alex! You know what? I'm contracted, I would say, annually to do about 250 to 300 hours of voicing. And, we definitely are, well over 200 consistently every year. And, I think when you look at over the course of time, this is 5 years now, I've been part of the franchise. And so, there's probably at least, I would say at the bare minimum, there's probably at least 750 hours or so of content that I have recorded for the game. And we typically do a 4.5-hour voice session. Some days we call them phone book, and that's going through the list of names that they can all be kind of edited and stitched together.
And how many times do you have to say one name?
That's a really good question. I want to say, so we do a 2-stitch, which is, passes the puck to Alex.
Alex isn't in the game. Alex isn't in the game, so don't get me started about that.
Well, we'll see what we can do. On that. Thanks, man. But we can. But so there's the 2-stitch we do, and then there's the bi-stitch they call it, and that's great save by Fleury, great save by Alex. So there's at least 2 that you would say, and then I believe I keep it at a pretty high intensity level just on the baseline. But I think we do have another gear for, a little more intensity as well. And so I think there's another bi and 2-stitch there. So I want to say we probably say every name. I want to say at least, and then there's probably your drive-by sort of, commentary things like, just the first time you'd say, just start off their name like, Crosby's having a tough game tonight kind of thing, right? So I want to say I think every name's probably mentioned. Don't quote me on this for sure 100%, but I want to say probably at least 5-6 times. It's probably in different contexts. And Yeah, well, I think we're up to about 5,000 names now.
See, nobody understands the background of what that takes. Okay, obviously, I love talking. I don't shut up, James. Really, if you ask my friends, I've done a podcast myself where I talk for 2.5 hours. I didn't know that was freaking possible, to be honest with you, but it is.
I mean, it took 5 minutes to introduce me, so I believe it.
See, the thing is, it's like
I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong.
You can probably just imagine how exhausted it would be. No one, like, hearing you say all the different names, like when you go through team names, when you go through last names, plays, all the different contexts you got to do, the goal celebration stuff that you do. I'm not even going to try to announce any of the French ones because I'm not French. You got the pirate ones. Like, you got all these different funny little things.
Oh, yeah,
there,
the pirate one.
Or I don't know what you say. I just made that up. Right
He's going to walk the plank.
Yeah, that's it. He'll walk the plank, right? That takes time. Like, yeah, you're going through different talk, going through different tones. It's like, there's a lot to make a video game, okay? It's not just that you just do AI and AI comes up with the game for you. There's thousands and thousands of people that are involved in so many different, from the pixels to the sound. And, you know, and truly to say with Cheryl quickly, I think she's a great ad. I like to call her a boss woman. That girl has, like, it's like Jennifer Botterill on Sportsnet too. Like, there's girl presence in broadcasting now, and I love it. Sorry, I won't get into that too much because then we're going to start diving into other things. But sticking to EA, I think the team of you two is going to have is great. But what I was saying about the work put in, it's not easy work where you're just sitting there talking. You're thinking, you're coming up with probably things on the fly. I'm sure you've had to improvise on your own terms, and they probably kept it. Maybe they didn't keep it. Maybe they say, "Hey, James, that's stupid. Don't do that." Like, that's the joy though of it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we do have to watch out with legalities that, you know, something that might be copyrighted or written, and so whether it's you know, referencing somebody's name or a song, you know, you gotta be careful with that. But for the most part, we gotta have some fun. Like, there was one, you know, some of the producers and some of the guys behind the scenes. I think there was a save, you know, stick save, and I was, oh, that's a paddling, right? And so for Simpsons fans, like, there's little eggs, you know, little Easter eggs that are kind of hidden in there for those that appreciate it. I'm an old school wrestling nerd, so there's tons of wrestling references that are dropped in there. And,
Alex and me, big wrestling. Well, I was back in the Attitude Era, is where I like.
Sure. So if you're an Attitude Era guy, that you'll definitely catch. Yeah, you'll definitely find a couple in there if you play enough. And the fact that you said you got 250 hours logged, yeah. I'm guessing you probably heard one or two. And the pirate ones, like, it's funny. There's a few of them you kind of forget over the years that you've kind of dropped in. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you just, you know, you're doing so many, and you know, I just to me, I'm a big believer of, like, I want my commentary exciting. I want it energetic. I hate when I can turn on a game and, you know, I can know the score or I know the game means nothing if that play-by-play announcer sounds like they're checked out, right? I mean, yeah. I think as an announcer, you know, some might be insulted by this sort of thought process, but I would say that, you know, part of you is a salesperson, right? Like, you're selling a broadcast, yeah, right? You want people to listen. You want people to engage. And so, look, I mean, I loved Bob Cole as a kid and just his energy, you know, and a big fan of Marv Albert as well, and those exciting moments, and, you know, Gorilla Monsoon as a kid as well, and really dating myself. But you know, those sorts of play-by-play announcers. But in recent years, like, I really enjoy, you know, the Gus Johnsons and, you know, these certain broadcasters that bring just an energy that, you know, that's high octane, and it's okay to have a little shtick. It's okay. Like, not every single play needs to be gimmicky, but I want some energy. I want some fun, and I want, you know, I'm watching this game for a reason. I want to be entertained, and to me, that's the approach I try to take, and I hope people enjoy it along the way.
Is there anything that people would, when they see you and they realize that you're the play-by-play guy, is there any, like, quotes that they yell at you as something that sticks with them?
Army matey walk the plank with
us. Like, that's us for sure. That's the one that sticks out to us.
You know what, man? Shout out! I think we're what, like a month away from International Talk Like a Pirate Days, so we can run it back in a month
for sure.
You know what? It's funny. I think a lot of times. You know, now I'm at a point where it's like a lot of my friends' kids now play the game, right? And sort of that sort of new generation of kids. And I think when they meet me, especially when they're younger, there's a little bit of a whoa, right? Like trying to, it's almost like the first time you see a teacher outside of the school or outside of the classroom, right? And you're like, wait a minute, you don't live in the classroom? Like, you're not, what are you doing here in the grocery store? Like, why are you here? So I think I think sometimes there's a little bit of a dumbfoundedness, but I know there was one that stood out for a group of university students. They loved waffle boarding.
Oh, of course. Well, that's just not a term you hear all the time anymore. That's very common in a video game, just not on like a broadcast as much.
Yeah, they just they like the waffle boarded. I think the wrestling fans love the "That's Gotta Be Kane" reference. So we go back to your Attitude Era. That's Gotta Be Kane's pretty. That pop's pretty good. That's a Padlin has come up for the Simpson fans. Ray's empty net goals. After year one, that was. Oh man! It's funny. We thought nothing of it, but I guess we didn't do a lot of empty net goals.
You did,
we didn't do a lot of empty net goals that first year, so it was a very small bucket, and that was quickly. We were here on social media like, if I have to hear one more flipping time, how many goals Ray Ferraro has, or empty netters Ray has, I'm going to just lose it. And so we kind of chuckled about it, but I think at the time, I think a few gamers were like, okay, enough already. So, that was fun.
And you talk so highly about everybody you've worked with on this game in the booth. So I shouldn't be asking you to start bench cut Ray, Cheryl, and Snoop Dogg, should I?
Oh, good.
Well, I'll say this.
You can call up and pass. It's cool.
Yeah. I'll say this. I would have to put Snoop number 3 on the power rankings of that.
That's what I assumed.
I'll say that. But I would say that probably the 2 most entertaining days of my professional life were going to LA.
Like, how did that happen?
So I want to say it was the first year. It was summer of 2019 when we went down. But I want to say the process probably started about 5 months before, where they said, hey, look, we were thinking, like, who would be some neat names that we could get involved in the game? It was like kind of chatting over lunch this one day, and we were just kind of throwing names out there. And I think, I think like the pie in the sky, I think we were talking Justin Bieber, obviously, with his love of hockey. And, I think just Biebs is just in another stratosphere financially to make that happen, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Like there's realistic and then there's not. And
Matthews on the we probably could have got that. Sorry, maybe.
No. But like we talked about, we talked. I think Drake's name had come up, and then just other sort of hockey celebs like John Hamm, and then Snoop's name popped up because he had done some commentary in the Kings booth, and it was like, oh man, and he's made some appearances over the years, and we were like, Snoop would be kind of actually, and then it was kind of like, actually he's done some stuff with Madden as well. So I think there was some people within Electronic Arts that had a relationship at least with Snoop's representation and with Snoop prior, and so. I guess calls and the process started, and then all of a sudden it was like, look, I think this is happening. And lo and behold, in the month of June of 2019, smack dab in the middle of the Raptors and the Warriors NBA Finals, there was a small group of us that flew down, myself along with 3 producers, and we went to Snoop's recording studio in Los Angeles,
that's cool.
And spent 2 days, in his facility, and it was honestly like he's a smart motherfucker. Like that guy is really, really talented, really smart, and really impressive in terms of the empire that guy's built. Like his production facility was big, big gated fence in front. You pull into this big parking lot, and there were multiple television production studios, and then recording studios for radio and for recording an album and all of it. Like it was, the green rooms, lounges. Like it was a really impressive facility. But I'll tell you, like, he was so much fun. You know, from my own experience, he took a lot of breaks. He took a lot of breaks, but he was a lot of fun.
I would. That's one of the top 10 people that I want to meet. Like the guy, and he wore a Leaf jersey, so he had my heart one time at a concert.
Yeah,
he's not a Leaf fan, though. I don't think. I think it's an LA.
No,
I think that he was strategic, and it's funny. No, you know what? He was strategic about that because we talked about it. It might actually be in the game, but he said, you know. Leaf. There's a leaf on the jersey.
He did say something about that in the game. Yeah, he did.
That's right, and he called it the 6. He likes calling it the 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he was like, honestly, he was so much like he was. I would say that Snoop was everything you would want him to be. Wow. He was exactly that. Everything that you thought he might be, in a positive way, he was.
And he was the perfect amount. One period in the game, just a little taste of some Snoop. That was perfect. Yeah. It was so well executed.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of. It was so much fun, and you know, I think there was probably a wish if you shoulda, coulda, woulda, if there was more time to get more content from him. But I think we were able to record at least a goal call for every NHL team. We did a goal call specifically targeted for. The Peterborough Petes because he had a Peterborough Petes jersey. He had a show in Peterborough. Yeah, so somewhere in that NHL 20 game, there is a Peterborough Petes goal call, and he was so much fun and quick on his feet, right, like sharp as a tack. It was great. It was really impressive.
See that's you know what, and I'm looking down because I know we like to follow time here, and I know we're going a little extra. Time flies when you're having fun. James, I think you know that better than probably anybody, okay? And truly, on the show, we did intend to talk about your show, your reward, and everything that you did, but we did tackle a lot of ESHL. You can tell that we're nerds. There was one point where you were ranked top 300 in the world, but that fell pretty quickly. There's people that win like 100 games there at 100 win games and 1 loss. Like, we play teams that are, I don't know what they do as a life. Like, I work full time in this, and that is their life, and it's amazing. But the game I've had every year, like you said, we have it every year, and I wish I would have kept all those old games and kept the package out of all of them. But we still, the big thing that I like the most in the game is franchise mode. I've always been a franchise guy for all the things, and because I'm a Leaf fan, I never got to see the Leafs win the cup. So when I make moves to actually get to see them lift the cup, it's like when the Cubs won the World Series. That's a dream. It's probably a pipe dream because if it doesn't happen this year, it might not happen ever for the Toronto Maple Leafs. In my honest opinion.
Say, like, Alex looks a bit like Austin Matthews there.
Whoa! Okay, I'll take that.
Maybe it's just the lighting, but it's a little duster.
Yeah.
We got a mixed bag on our family.
Same bad hairline.
Leafs fans, Wings fans.
You got a ball cap. The magic of the ball cap. It hides all my gray. So
perfect. I wish I had gray to hide.
Honestly, like, we have a mixed bag on our family. Like I said, the Leafs, the Wings, Sabres, Habs, and Oilers. Those are kind of the 5 teams I think top of my head that everyone likes, but we're dominated by Leaf fans for sure because of where we're at. But I appreciate you saying that they've won the Stanley Cup, James. If they actually win the cup, I might give you a buzz and be like, can I live re-record you over whoever was on the TV?
You can pour me one of those spiced rums there that you
nice.
We'll have ourselves a night. I'll say this: like, I spent 12 years in Toronto, and I loved it. I loved living in the city. Both my daughters were born there.
Cool.
And it's funny. Like, I grew up in Ottawa, and I think if you had to pin me down to a team, I'd love to see win the Stanley Cup. I'd love to see the Senators. To win, and obviously I've got some love for Vancouver, living here in Vancouver, but over time, it's funny, the Leafs for a long time kind of organizationally ran on arrogance that, people that covered the team on the day-to-day, it was like, can't wait for these guys to lose. Like, you kind of rooted against them because they were just tough to deal with. Hey, look, a lot's changed, but I would also say that, I think if the Leafs can win, if they ever win a Stanley Cup, it will be something as big as what we've seen with Canada winning an Olympic gold medal. I think if the Leafs win, and I think there's 6 other Canadian hockey franchises that will probably barf to hear me say that, but I think the closest comparable in terms of a celebration will be, a Canadian team or like a Canadian national team winning gold in the Olympics or a Canada Cup victory from years back, because there are Leaf fans everywhere. I don't think there might be a smattering of fans for the Jets and the Senators and the Oilers and the Flames here and there, but nothing to the volume. Like, there's certainly a prominent group of Habs fans as well, but the spread out nationally, and generationally too, right? Like, for a long time, there were just 2 Canadian teams, Montreal and Toronto, and I think typically the English fans were drawn to Toronto and the French obviously loving Montreal. It's not to say that all English fans are Toronto fans, but I think if the Leafs ever win, it'll be absolutely massive across this country. Not just regionally in the GTA. It'll be massive coast to coast.
I would hate to be an employer the day after.
The biggest Stanley Cup parade of all time, by far. And it's like, I like to compare it to the Raptors win where Toronto was closed, but I think it'd be even bigger than the Raptors.
Yeah, well, for sure. And look, hey, look, the Raps winning was huge. The Jays winning in 92 and 93 was absolutely massive too, I think, for the city. But you're just talking about a whole different stratosphere of the Jays are almost 50 years old. The Raptors are almost 30 years old. We're talking about the Leafs that are 100 years old, right? Like, they have been around, they're not just it's not just your team. It's not just your parents' team. It's not just your grandparents' team, but it's also like your great-grandparents' team. Like, there's no other team that, I guess you could maybe make a claim for the Toronto Argonauts, but respectfully, they we're not really having this conversation. So the point is I think if the Leafs win, if and when they do, it will be astronomical of a celebration, and it will resonate not just in the GTA, but coast to coast. And people were excited here when the Raptors won, but I think it'll be a whole other story if the Leafs win.
Getting chills.
Now, James, like I said, I know we're going a little extra time, but before I get to the conclusion, I got one final question for you to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Because you did do sports outside of being a commentator and being known for that. Who is your hot take this year? We're in August. I'm going to tell every listener, I don't like telling the month that we record, but we're in August. If you had to pick a Stanley Cup winner right now for next year, given a lot of things that still haven't happened going into the season, trades and maybe some signings, who are you picking to win the Stanley Cup in 2024? If you can tell me.
Yeah. I'll, you know what? I will run it back with the Dallas Stars. And if for a Canadian team, I think the Oilers have your best shot there.
Oh, Dane.
So,
Dane, our friend Dane, would love you. Okay, he was actually upset he couldn't make it for this episode, but if he was here, James, he'd be saying too many and-ums, and that's why he's not on this. Oh, he's going to get me for that chirp. Okay, getting to the conclusion, James.
Dane, if it makes you feel any better, I certainly did my share of ums and uhs over the years, so. Happens to the best of us.
It does. It takes time and practice, right?
And sometimes ums and uhs pay.
They do. Now,
I'm here.
I want to give you the floor before we let you go and promote you on things that you want to promote. I love giving guests to talk. I don't promote anything for advertisement wise. That's your company. If you want to promote your podcast, I love. You know what? I started listening to it a lot more when I got to see it more. I think Mike Commodore is an absolute beauty. You can tell him I'd love to have him on this show because I would love to hear his Babcock in person. Babcock absolute lashing. I would love it. But your podcast is great. I want to give you the floor about what you're doing now. Anything you want to promote.
Okay. I got to make it real quick, though, because I got to pick up a 15-year-old daughter in about 20 minutes here from work. So I'll just say Clearing the Crease Podcast, powered by Bodog. It's Andrew Raycroft. It's Mike Commodore. You got the Calder Trophy winner. You got the Stanley Cup winner, and yours truly. That drops twice monthly. courtesy of Bodog. You can find that on Spotify and on YouTube, and you can find it on all the social channels at BodogCA. Also, NHL 24, just weeks away. The puck drops October 6th, so we hope to find you there. And in the meantime, you can find me at James Cybulski on X or Twitter or whatever it is. And you can find me on Instagram at James_Cybulski. And I think I'm on Threads, but I haven't really. Not really. I'm on Threads, but I'm not
everybody's
really
on Threads, but no one's on Threads.
Everyone's on Threads, but no one's on Threads. And it's like, you see these big profiles, and it's like, 2 likes, and you're like, oh, okay, so maybe it's not just me. All right. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate that. That was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun.
Cheers, boys. Cheers. We'll see you at Channel at some point. We'll drop the fact here on PS4. And I think it's cross-platform now, so
it is.
You can find me Cball 604 on the PlayStation Network. So track me down. We'll get a game. You guys can kick my ass.
Oh, we're playing. We're playing. We'll have to get you on again soon, James. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Cheers, guys. Thanks again.
Cheers.
Peace.
Now, that was James Cybulski, Alex. What a time. Okay, I'm going to tell listeners, because we don't get this opportunity at the end of the show usually to talk about the guests. Usually we do the guests and we're done, right?
Now we can just badmouth them.
Now, I knew that we were going to be a little bit tight. We're in the summer recording this. Time constraints are all over the place for yours truly, for you, for him especially, and it was great that he was able to devote not even 30 minutes as planned. We're at 46 minutes of this recording. And
oh, my God.
And he's done an amazing job giving us a story. We did have intentions to talk about his awards, his broadcasting, his memorable moments, but you know what? A lot of people click this, I'm sure, because of EA, SHL, hearing him on AHL. Sure. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, but I promise you we will plan to have James on within the next calendar year to talk a little bit more again, okay? So, but I'm sure everyone enjoyed this, Alex. It was a great episode. James did
that guy has just as much energy in the game as he does just personality-wise. He was animated and loud and swearing. Hell yeah, James. What an interview.
And we're adding him, and we're playing against him. Or he can maybe...
Come on. Little guest appearance?
Or join the squads.
Come play a game?
Come play a game, and we'll stream it because Alex is going to stream games this year.
Yeah, we'll see.
I didn't tell him that yet, but now he
We'll
knows.
see. We'll see.
It's a request, a volunteer request.
More like a voluntold, by the way you're phrasing it, but we'll see.
I'm not the boss.
No, that was awesome. Honestly, some of those questions I've been
Andrew Raycroft was on his podcast, and I wanted to say the best trade in Leafs fucking history for Andrew Raycroft.
Scott Niedermayer, Roberto Luongo, which one of those.
Oh, the times. But that was fun. I hope everyone got to enjoy the segment here with James. It's fantastic. Like I said, we couldn't get into everything we wanted to, but we kept the content flowing, and it was entertaining as fuck. So if you don't agree with this being entertaining, you don't got no entertainment concept. Sorry.
Whoa. Dave, honestly, if they didn't think it was entertaining, they're not going to make it 50 minutes deep. So
that's so true. Improve those analytics higher. Because there's well over 50% who like our videos but don't hit subscribe or comment. So you know what?
Are you doing?
What are you doing? Hit subscribe. Give us the support there. Okay.
Where is the subscribe button? I think it's going to be down.
It's down
in
here.
This general area.
I'm hoping Flood includes that as I point it down in this general. If I'm talking right here.
You're right. It might be over there.
It's going to be right here underneath my left nipple. It's going to be
nice.
Right there.
Oh, I can get that.
And then there's the right side underneath in the middle of your two best looking guys on the screen right now is where you got the like and the dislike.
We're also the two ugliest guys, so let's not get carried away.
Apparently look like Austin Matthews, you do. So
yeah, well, I haven't heard very good reviews about what that guy looks like, so...
He should take after your haircut. I'm sorry. I'm just.
Have you seen that photo of him at the NHL Awards when the light's like right on his head?
Guy's gonna be bald by.
It looks like he's got 3 strands of hair. Austin, I love you, man. Don't leave Toronto. But I'm just saying, take a page from my book. Let's get it before Mother Nature, baby. Come on.
If I was him, I'd be bald. I would be bald. I would be 100% bald.
And just the duster, just the stash. Somebody lock that guy up if he's rocking that look.
Hey, the funnier stories are about him on social media on that celebrity Tinderist type account thing. I'm not going to get into that. We're not going to talk
I have heard about this thing that you have to be invited by somebody, eh?
Yeah, but we won't go there. That's for a Top Shelf podcast.
Who told you these stories?
TikTok. But doesn't matter. That's why we'll save it. But you know what? Matthews, give it a little buzz. But James Cybulski, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everything of all ages. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. And James, it was a pleasure. I know you're going to listen to this back, but we're going to have him on again. I've already planned that. But I said, I want this show, and we're going to do a part 2 down the road with James. And like I said, Parr will have streams where you're going to hear James Cybulski's voice a little bit more this year. And he might be on the show.
This isn't the microphone that's set up right now. This is all for show, but maybe we will see.
Oh, that's fun. Alex, man, it was a treat as always having you.
I'm glad you finally listened to me.
And I'm glad you talked. I think you talked more than I did this show, which I love.
Yeah, I had a bunch of questions. I've wanted to ask NHL play-by-play guy these questions my whole life. I wanted to know how much time they actually have to spend in the studio. Because, think about it. Think about how long you'll play a game before you hear something for the very first time. How many hours are going into that?
Hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of time is going into that. And at the end of the day, we're here enjoying it, playing the game, and getting mad. And you know how many times James said the game? I feel like I want to clip that and use that as sound bait because it sounds good when he says the game.
You're just going to stitch it together? Hi, my name's James Cybulski, and I love the game.
That's it. That's all. I'm going to make it like an AI-generated sound.
I'm sure he said the word podcast, too, because he said a show.
He said, so the game, podcast.
Perfect.
And he said sports somewhere in there. You could just – Alex Flood, let's go. What am I?
Yeah, let's put words in our guest's mouth, baby. Woo!
What am I paying my volunteer producer for? God, I love your service, Flood. Thank you very much. Hannah, thanks to you, too, for doing the thumbnail on this show. Your thumbnails are fire. Parr, you as a co-host, always fire. But also my officiant at my wedding. That's even better.
Yes, sir.
It has been a good time, Alex. I want to thank you for taking the time. I got to do my signature sign-off. If I don't do my sign-off, the show just isn't complete. But if you're listening to this show, there's so many other shows on the Game Sports Podcast. Start transitioning that name. The Game Sports Show you can still say for now, but start getting used to podcast. You can listen to all the shows. We've got over 7 shows. Top Shelf's coming back. In the Pocket's coming back. We got the podcast with me. It's there. You got our special edition that you're listening to full time. We also got shows just you couldn't believe. Okay,
Strike Zone.
Strike Zone. That's one I forgot. Thank you very much, Alex. Strike Zone. And if you tune into 91N, formerly TGM, the YouTube channel, you can listen to shows on there. We got the Pack Sack Project. That's a local show, very interesting. We got Mental Health Show with Strong Minds, but we're also very headlined by sports. By the Game Sports Show, by Average Jocks podcast. Oh, the boys in Average Jocks with Joel and Adam. They get guests just as high profile as we do. They got some good content there. And yes, I said the Game Sports Show gets, and sports podcast, I'm also saying it, get the guests as well. And also just overall, the special edition uploads are on there too. So hit subscribe, which is underneath my nipple, or just tune into Spotify or to Apple or where you get your podcast. That subscribe, that like goes a long way for us to keep being able to put out this excellent content, have this excellent program here for you. And thanks to Flawless Roofing, Sure Steel Incorporated, 30 years in the biz. I'm sure Flood already edited in my little cut scene at the beginning and maybe throughout the show, but I'll say it visually. 30 years experience. Protect your investment. Start from the top, just like I protect my staff and I start and have from the top like Alex. Alex, thank you very much again, my friend. We got a lot to get to. I got to let you go. Getting to the conclusion portion of the show. Until next time, I'm here to remind you, keep your stick on the ice, swing your bats, catch your touchdowns, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.